On tonight's very special holiday episode of the podcast, we're doing our spoiler-filled review for Spider-Man No Way Home. And we're talking about the top 5, I was going to say 10, talking about the top 5 movies, comics, and video games of 2021. Let's get into it. It is Friday night in Phoenix for you, Wednesday night in Phoenix for us, and you're listening to the holiday episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast. I am Matt.
I am Lance.
I am Max.
And I am Ish.
Yes, joining us from Fantastic Worlds Comics in Scottsdale, Arizona, we have Ish. Had to bring a man who knows his movies in to talk Spider-Man No Way Home with me.
It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you, guys.
Or I should say with us.
Yeah, I've been excited about this all week, having Ish on. It's going to be a great show.
You know, I go down with Omicron for 1 week, and I forget how to intro the show. I can't talk. Just, man.
You did a better job introing the show than I did. When we last minute right before the show, we're like, wait, Matt doesn't have a voice. Shouldn't one of us do it?
Nah,
so I just took the reins.
You did a great job. Great job, sir. But do we want to lead off the show with spoiling Spider-Man No Way Home?
Just like list all the spoilers, boom, boom, boom.
Just go through the idea to talk about the movies. We thought. I could finally say why I didn't like the movie, or why there's things I don't like about the movie.
You gave it an 8 out of 10, though. So I
did give it an 8 out of 10.
That's a strong score.
That's pretty high praise.
I liked it, but there's things that I'm interested to see what Ish says. There's things about the movie that I feel do not fit the core of this character. And it just kind of felt like they were off. They missed the mark a little bit.
I completely agree.
So
are we going to get into that? Or
do it.
Do we need to put something on the screen as spoilers, or is it just because it's in the title? We're just
that's what they're here for. Like, if they're listening to the beginning of it and we're saying, should we spoil this? And we have to start talking about it. That's their own fault at this point.
So, Matt, I know your grievances. The specific one is Aunt May dying, right?
Yes, that's a big one for me. Yes.
Ish,
that was the best part of the movie.
I agree. I felt it was unnecessary.
I was overjoyed by that death.
But if you're a fan of Spider-Man the character and the comics and stuff, Aunt May is kind of like his emotional core. Where does he get that now? Like, Aunt May's always kind of been there to steer Peter in the right direction, and now nobody knows who he is. So
it's like Alfred.
Yeah, and here's my thing with this is that I understand in the context of the movie, the other Spider-Mans have their pain. They have that Uncle Ben moment. You never really saw an Uncle Ben moment in the MCU Spider-Man because they've kind of always when we meet Peter, he's already been Spider-Man for a little bit. So he doesn't get that Uncle Ben moment.
So go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, for me, where that Uncle Ben moment comes in is Tony Stark. Tony Stark dying at the end of Endgame is his Uncle Ben moment. That Mr. Stark, we won Mr. Stark. That's his Uncle Ben moment. That's his transition into why he does what he does. In Far From Home, he's struggling with that whole identity crisis of being the new Iron Man and people looking at him being the new Iron Man. He didn't need that in this. May is his emotional north. May is his north, his moral north. And so if you're looking at even in the events of One More Day, the dude made a deal with the devil to give up his relationship and his future child with his high school sweetheart to save his aunt. And in this movie, he's just like, cool, man, I'm going to let her die. That's not Spider-Man. May is as important to this character as Peter Parker himself is.
Well, I think a little issue with letting her die. He didn't let her die. She got killed by Green Goblin.
No, he's talking about Marvel letting her die.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So I have something to say for that. So I have a couple theories. Okay, these are all theories. So first of all, when we see Aunt May's gravestone at the end of the movie, where Peter and Happy are standing in front of it, normally when a spouse dies, that spouse would be buried next to another spouse. Well, there's no Uncle Ben gravestone next to Aunt May.
I was thinking the same thing.
So I'm almost of the assumption that Uncle Ben is still alive, and that Uncle Ben could take the mantle of, because he's never mentioned, dude. He's never mentioned in the entire MCU his uncle dying.
He mentioned
there's the briefcase, the BP initial briefcase.
Yeah, in the suitcase in
suitcase.
Far From Home.
Yeah, but it's never said that he died. And What If is a different universe, so you can't use What If. That's a different.
No,
Spider-Man.
it's not What If. It's Far From Home. His briefcase or his suitcase has the Benjamin Parker initials on it.
No, I'm not trying to dispute that he exists. What I'm saying is that nowhere is
you
it
think
ever
he's
said
still
that
alive.
He died.
They could be divorced.
They could be
He
divorced.
Could be a divorcee out there.
I think that is what's the word? On purpose. That the fact that they don't mention him ever dying, the fact that we know that he exists because of the briefcase, and the third thing of why wasn't there a gravestone with Ben Parker's name next to it? Like if he was cremated and they didn't bury him, well, why didn't Aunt May get the same thing? Like they would have something on there.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from. I think he passed away. They mentioned in Spider-Man Homecoming, with everything going on with May, I just don't want to burden her with this.
It's vague on purpose.
Divorce.
I know.
I think in the original Homecoming, they purposely didn't have Uncle Ben because I think it was just something they didn't want to retread a third time. I think in each of the trilogies, there's always something like, well, we got to do this differently this time.
Thomas Wayne.
They were just like, yeah, we're not going to do the death of Uncle Ben. We're not going to do the bitten by the spider. We're just going to move on. So maybe now they kind of have to retcon an Uncle Ben back in, or.
Well, I mean, they've already established that this Spider-Man, this cinematic version of Spider-Man is going to be different than the other cinematic versions of Spider-Man, right? So they've changed all these things. They made Aunt May much younger. They made MJ, they changed MJ's name. We haven't even met a Norman or Harry Osborn yet, except for the alternate universe one. Norman,
I think they even mentioned in No Way Home that Oscorp doesn't exist.
Yeah, and his son doesn't exist. So there's a lot of things that are different about this version of Spider-Man than what we've seen prior. And what better way to make this Spider-Man different in the eyes of us as an audience, to kill Aunt May and make Uncle Ben his forward point. You know what I mean?
But
his North Star.
Here's the biggest flaw in your theory, though. I wish everyone forgets who Peter Parker is. Boom, gone.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to last. I think there's going to be some people. The MJ and Ned thing. Okay, so first of all, at the end of the movie, Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange. Okay, says, "Okay, make everybody forget who I am. This includes Ned. This includes Happy. This includes MJ." And he tells MJ, "I'm going to come find you, and I'm going to tell you who I am." And he gets to the restaurant, see that their lives are better, and he decides not to. But I don't think that's going to last. And if it doesn't last for MJ and Ned, then it may not last for Ben Parker. I think there's an easy way to bring him in.
Does the spell get rid of Mysterio's video and all the Jameson vlog videos?
I think so, yeah. Because we saw, I think that is fixed when J. Jonah Jameson at the end says, "We don't know who Spider-Man is," and all that is just stricken from memory, and videos are erased. And
that's what I'm saying. A memory is different than like a digital video. You know what I mean? I feel like the parameters of the spell are
they're kind of vague,
very vague.
So
I think it's heavily
go back and change time. Mysterio, like the implications are insane. What about the other two Peter Parkers and their multiverses? Are their lives completely ruined now because nobody remembers them all of a sudden?
Yeah.
That's what I wasn't sure about. Did it apply to every Peter Parker or just this?
Yeah, you and I talked about that, right, Max?
A lot of questions.
Yeah, I think it's just this Peter Parker, and I think I think there are issues, but I think that they're basically trying to say it's magic. All the digital files are gone too. Peter Parker just doesn't exist anymore, basically. Because if you notice
that everyone forgets Mysterio.
Well, yeah, that probably would have been better.
But what I'm saying, why didn't they just go with, this movie is a mixture of comic book storylines from One More Day, One Moment in Time, and Brand New Day. So why didn't they just go with the One Moment in Time moment where he does the spell and makes everybody forget who Spider-Man is, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, except for the people that are in the bubble when he's doing the spell. So it could have been he's doing the spell so he remembers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but Ned and MJ don't. I think the flaw in the movie is the big flaw in the movie for me is the final wish of making everyone forget who Peter Parker is, because where does it writes him out of? They write themselves into a corner when it goes to any future MCU movies.
Well, what do the Avengers think?
Right. What are they going to do?
Who's the Spider Dude who appeared out of nowhere? Yeah.
Exactly. How are they going to get a hold of Spider-Man to go help with the next Avengers level threat? What happens when Galactus shows up or whoever they got coming down the pipeline shows up and they need help from Spider-Man, but they don't know how to get a hold of him.
And that is what's weird, because it seems like people know Spider-Man exists. They just don't know who he is. So I don't know. I don't know if people are going to remember who he is per se, or if they're going to have to rebuild those relationships, or what. But I don't think it's going to be hard for Peter.
Well, his entire identity is wiped out.
Yeah, because he doesn't even have a high school diploma anymore.
Yeah, he's not even. There's no record of his existence.
Yeah.
That's kind of how do you move on?
That's sad.
How does the dude even rent an apartment at the end of the movie with no credit score? Yeah.
Which, by the way, I was really hoping it was going to be the guy from the original Spider-Man movies.
Oh, Rent. That
guy. I was thinking that was really funny.
The Rent guy.
But I understand they were going for an emotional moment, so if you had that guy in there, it probably would have messed it up. But I don't know, man. I think it was a very sad ending to the movie. I think it's interesting, though. I think it could be cool in the future to see what happens. I mean, are people going to remember who he is via some spell that Doctor Strange does to reverse things, or is something a multiverse of madness going to kind of cause things to revert? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I kind of like the idea that he has to start over. It's crazy. It's weird, but I think it's kind of leaves room for some new storytelling that we haven't seen before.
Max, I think you bring up a great point. Like this Spider-Man trilogy is all about changing the character that we think we all know, right? It's been that way since day one. I mean, the who his friends are and Aunt May and all these things, it's just been completely different than everything we've seen prior. And this is just another way to make that character different. I
feel
think
like the core of SpiderMan is there though in all three.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just changing the window dressing.
Yeah, it just kind of puts Spider-Man in a position that we're not familiar with, and it keeps us guessing. And they got us doing exactly what they wanted us to do, is dissect this movie and be perplexed about, because they've already said another 3 are coming, right?
They're fast tracking the 4th movie.
Yeah, another 3 are coming, and we still have all this multiverse mumbo jumbo because of Morbius and Venom and all these other things. Like there's still all these threads that are loose.
Yeah. Well, and that leads to the question of, when does Morbius take place? Because we know Michael Keaton's in it as Vulture. Vulture knew who Spider-Man was, but if it takes place after No Way Home, he no longer knows who Spider-Man is.
Well, and it's obvious, it's clear from Venom that Morbius and Venom are in the same universe, but Spider-Man is not in that universe.
Doesn't the trailer have like a Easter egg where it's a poster of Spider-Man, and it says on it "Killer,"
Murderer, yeah,
murderer.
So that feels like that's a
post-reveal, identity reveal, kind of. Or
the other thing I think too,
Mysterio.
The vibes I kind of got from this movie too is that this movie was being written during the Sony Marvel rift, during the we don't know if we're going to do any more movies under the Marvel banner, under the Marvel Studios Disney banner. It almost feels like they wrote themselves out of the MCU with this, because now we've got the stuff with the Easter egg at the end with the Venom Easter egg, and
they've separated Venom from Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock. Like,
yeah,
boom,
and
he's back. But
they've established that Venom is not part of this universe, that he's from the Venom we know with Eddie Brock currently is from a different universe,
which I loved,
or multiverse.
Yeah,
so
game for that.
They separate all that and they reset everything. They erase all of the characters that are tied to the MCU with Ned and MJ and all that. They erase all of that. So it almost feels like they wrote this during that, and now they're gonna have to figure out a way to write themselves out of it and keep it going with the MCU since they're fast tracking 3 more movies.
Well, I think that maybe your point still stands in the idea of they were writing this movie, and because everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, maybe their world was, well, we can continue this Spider-Man because no one in the MCU knows who he is anymore, and we could just
kind of like a soft reboot.
Yeah. Kind of. So I think it would have worked if that's what their intention was, but it seems like the intention is to keep him in the MCU, and I love that, and I'm very excited about it. I don't know. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities. But
not only him, but it's like this movie to me I felt like a redemption story for the Tobey and Andrew Garfield movies, and that's what you got with the villains was that redemption arc.
Oh,
so much so that it's got people's eyes on the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man again, and everyone is remembering and seeing what that could have been. To their point, they're talking about doing 3 more movies with him, plus an additional movie with Tobey.
That would be awesome.
So they're talking about having all these different Spider-Man movies going on now with these different versions of this character.
I think that'd be amazing.
I think the Tobey one is unrealistic. He's way too old.
I'm not as interested in the Tobey one. Not that it wouldn't be cool, but I would love to see more Andrew Garfield movies. He's still my favorite Spider-Man. I just love him. I know Amazing Spider-Man wasn't the best movie, but he is so good, and seeing him back just reaffirmed that for me. Like, his quippiness and just he's so good.
I've made this point numerous times. Tobey was an excellent Peter Parker. Andrew was an excellent Spider-Man. Tom does both very well. Where Andrew I felt was lacking as Peter and Tobey was lacking as Spider-Man, but Tom does both very, very well. And there's a duality to this character, and that's why it works so well. And that's why Batman's the same way. And DC is running a bunch of different Batman properties at the same time too, right? It's working for them, or so we think. I mean, with the Batman coming out in March, why couldn't Sony have multiple Spider-Man projects?
You know what I would honestly really like to see? I would like to see Andrew and Tobey in the same movie. You don't need to have Tom Holland in there, but a team up between those two, because they were freaking hilarious, man. The back popping, the chemistry between them.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good. But I agree with your point, which, by the way, I do want to clarify something really quick so I don't get hate in the comments. I wasn't happy Aunt May died. I was just trying to get a rise out of Matt, and it didn't work.
No, it didn't.
Because he knows me well enough.
And well, it's also because I've had a week to like simmer on this. And I've been saying, like, everybody I talk to is like, oh, I saw Spider-Man, it's so great. And I'm like, I didn't really like it. And I haven't been able to explain why I didn't like it to anybody, because I can't goad them into being like, what? You didn't like it? Like, I was like, come on, I need somebody to talk to about this. I've been waiting for this.
So, Lance and I may have gotten a little too aggressive with Tyler's wife. So Tyler's wife was at my little friend get together that I had on Saturday, and she was saying she thought No Way Home was better than Endgame. And as soon as she said that, both Lance and I, we were on opposite sides of the room, and we both convulged on her. And we're like, no, that's not true at all. Don't you dare say that. And I loved No Way Home. Like, I absolutely loved it. But Endgame is better. Like, it's just, in my opinion, it's better. Can you say which one is objectively better? Probably not. It's an opinion, but Endgame to me is a far better movie. But I kind of felt bad for her. I almost felt like we were bullying her.
This was like the end game of Spider-Man movies almost.
It was, definitely. And someone described it that way in the marketing leading up to this. And I think it definitely fits that bill. But the reason for me that like something like Endgame is even more impactful with some of the surprises that they had. First of all, they were surprises to me. That was a big part of it, because Spider-Man No Way Home, I wasn't surprised by a lot. Too many leaks came out. But on top of that, like, they had been teasing for 10 years that Captain America could wield Mjolnir. They had been teasing Thanos as the villain for 10 years, or maybe not 10 years, but a lot of that 10-year period, Whereas No Way Home, it was just all of a sudden, boom, these Spider-Man are in the movie, which was great. I loved it, but there wasn't all this anticipation for nearly a decade for it because it wasn't planned for 10 years.
And we were kind of teased with the idea before, right? I mean, we just had the animated movie come out just 3-4 years ago, where basically a lot of the same premise is used for this movie. I would call this a live action, into the Spider-Verse, So we've seen it, obviously not in real life, but we've seen it. Endgame, and the other issue I have with this movie is there's some down points. There's some points where it just feels to go a little bit too long. Endgame captures my attention from start to finish. There's no downtime really. Like even in the points where it's supposed to be softer moments, like Captain America and Black Widow talking in their office and talking about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and Tony talking about his time in space and saying he lost the war. Like all these are slow moments, but they add so much to the movie, right? There's moments in Spider-Man that I'm like, okay, just get to the next thing. It did not have to be 2.5 hours.
Well, yeah, there were moments, and we're really ragging on the movie, but I think most of us loved it. But there were moments at the beginning that they went too quick through things, and then there were other moments that they spent too long on. So in our spoiler-free review, I was referring to something, and basically what it was is Spider-Man was detained by the police, and then he meets with Matt Murdock one time, and then all of a sudden he's at school. And I was like, wait, wasn't he arrested? Like, there was no trial. There was no, I don't remember them ever in the movie saying, oh yeah, he's been acquitted. The charges didn't stick. Matt Murdock said that the charges wouldn't stick, but nothing ever was said. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, how is he at school? Is there a police escort? It really confused me. But then there were other moments that I was like, all right, this is taking too long. When are these villains actually going to become villains? The whole team up of them becoming good guys together. I was like, well, this is definitely going to go wrong, but when is it going to go wrong? And for me, it took a little too long to get to the point where it went wrong. But after that, which I think I would say is probably the end of the first act, that's when the rest of the movie was just incredible for me. Once Green Goblin revealed himself as bad, then it just took off. I was slapping Lance. I was sitting right next to Lance, and I'm pretty sure I slapped your arm when Willem Dafoe was fighting Spider-Man as Green Goblin with the glider and pounding him through the apartment building floors. I was just like, oh my gosh. It was so good. That's
definitely when the movie picked up. So I've read a few times online about how great that Matt Murdock scene is. And I don't agree.
It doesn't work for me at all.
It was awesome seeing him. Don't get me wrong. But it felt kind of cheap. It
served no purpose really.
Yeah, there wasn't a pivotal scene.
It was so shoehorned in.
And here's the thing too. Yes, Peter Parker knows who Matt Murdock is because the spell didn't work both ways, right? But Matt Murdock now no longer knows that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So where does that put Matt Murdock? The second thing is if you're going to put Daredevil in a movie, I want him in the freaking movie, not just a scene where he catches a brick. That's never addressed again. He catches the brick. Peter Parker's like, how did you do that? And it just cuts to the next scene. It's like, wait a minute.
It was pure fan service. And I appreciated the fan service, but I do wish there had been a little more. That's why I'm saying it would have been nice if there was a trial.
I just want to point out we went 23 minutes before someone said fan service. And I've been waiting for this because I wanted to talk about that. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I mean, I said my point. I mean, I want to know if you guys agree because that's kind of how I felt about the Daredevil scene.
I agree because I was stoked for that. I knew it was coming from the leaks, but when I saw it, I was like, oh man, it's Matt Murdock, it's Daredevil. And Aaron was like, who? I was like, it's Daredevil. She's like, all right, I don't understand why you're getting excited. And nobody popped for that. A lot of people were like, who is that?
Well, our theater, that was the loudest.
Did he look CGI'd into the scene?
Yeah, he definitely looked different.
A lot of that stuff with all the extra actors felt like they were filmed separately and they're not actually talking to each other in the same room.
Yeah, no, I didn't get that vibe.
But the pop when the other two Spider-Men show up, the pop was so loud. So it's
See,
like,
and
you
I
can
don't
kinda
feel like
tell
it
how-
was like that in our theater.
Our theater, the Matt Murdock was the largest pop.
Really?
It was kind of
Interesting.
funny. Yeah. I think it's just because like it wasn't a very loud pop. Like people weren't super duper excited. And I think people were apprehensive once the other Spider-Man came on screen. Like I clapped, but I didn't clap super loud or cheer. I was just like, yeah.
So
There were two
speaking,
girls.
At our
There were two
showing,
girls that, like, lost
Andrew
their
Garfield
mind.
got an audible gasp from the women.
I
It
actually feel like I
totally
remember
stood
a
out.
gasp. I think there was a gasp in our theater for him.
so
But everyone cheered and clapped for Tobey Maguire big time.
oh yeah, Toby it will forever be. He's like the
Tobey
Michael
got a
Keaton.
cheer.
He's the
and,
Michael Keaton of the role.
Garfield got a gasp.
Yeah,
I
felt
swooned
like
when Garfield came on the screen. I was just like,
You were one of the gaspers.
I feel like all the introductions of all these characters from the other universes was done pretty poorly as well. Because and you and I talked about this, and don't even try to lie because you agreed with me when I talked to you about it.
well,
so
hold on. I don't agree on this. I don't agree
well,
on the Spider-Man, but go ahead with
what
your
I-
point. Maybe
what
with the
I
villains,
wanted-
I agree.
What I wanted to happen was to see that these characters in their universes at the moment that they were being pulled
Okay.
through,
Okay,
they just
you're right.
all kind of just show up. And I
Octopus
didn't
is
like that.
rampaging from the get-go. So was he
Mhm.
rampaging already on a highway when he was dragged across?
Yeah, like why didn't they show us all these people being? That's one thing into the
And then
Spider-Verse
Goblin, how
did
many
better.
people did Goblin kill on the bridge? Cars were blowing
Right.
up, being flipped over. Like that had real life
Yeah,
consequences.
I agree. You're right, Lance. I agree. It would have been cool to see them ripped from their universes. What was going on? So we understood, like timeline wise, when did they get pulled out? Because for Electro, they say it was like right as he was about to die from Amazing Spider-Man 2. But the other guys, it's not clear when they were pulled.
Yeah, Ock, it wouldn't have been that because he regains himself before he
that.
dies. That's how
Yeah.
he dies, right? Sandman, it seems like it was after the point that Toby had forgiven him, right? But when does the lizard come through? Because first of all, when we last saw the lizard, he couldn't maintain that form for long periods of time. He was constantly going into the other lizard form or in the human form. He's a lizard the entire time. And I read online it was because they used a lot of old scenes from the other movies and just put them in here. So of when they're in their characters, the Sandman and Lizard were both the same way. And even the scene where he's turning back into Kurt Connors is
Yeah,
from
that looked
it's
like
from
it.
the same movie. Like he's curled
Yeah.
up the same and everything. And but the reveal of the two Spider-Man, like, yes, it was awesome. Don't get me wrong, it was awesome, but it wasn't as cool as I thought it would be, as I was hoping it would be. It was kind of like use the sling ring and see Peter. I would say Andrew's reveal was better than Toby's. The way he came
Use
in
the
from...
sling ring and see the Peter.
But even Andrews was like, "Hey, Peter!"
Can you get
and then
that Peter to tingle?
he runs down the hallway or the alleyway, right? Toby's just kind of like standing there, turns around, and it just wasn't as big of a moment as I think it could have been. Like, think back to Endgame when Sam gets into Cap's comm, right, and says on your left. That to me felt like so much more.
It was a bigger entrance.
It was a bigger entrance. Like everybody's entrance just kind of felt lackluster. But it doesn't take away how cool it was to see all them in there. I wish that it would have done that better.
I do think it would have been cool if like Andrew or at least Toby showed up like to help, so that the reveal was like during an action sequence. But when we were talking about this movie before, I had mentioned that I thought that Andrew Garfield's character was going to show up as MJ was falling, like we saw in the trailer. And I'm glad that wasn't the case because I really was expecting to only get like the final act with these characters and maybe the last 20 minutes of the movie. Like, I
they're
wasn't
main characters.
But yeah, they were in probably more than half the movie. And that was a pleasant surprise, and I was very happy about that. And I was glad that we got those down moments where they were doing science and like being nerds together. And we kind of got the Spider-Man pointing at each other moment. They weren't in costume. I wish they would have been in costume for that. But we got that meme kind of recreated with all of them as Peter Parker in lab coats. And I love that. I feel like we have been missing some of the Peter is a super smart, like science, math-based kid. And this movie brought a lot of that back, not just with all three of them, but even just with Tom Holland's Peter itself. Like when he was fighting Doctor Strange and he uses geometry to trap him. That was so cool. Like I loved that.
So that's been my beef with all of them. The only one that really got the science thing perfect, in my opinion, was Andrew's Spider-Man. The two Spider-Man that he was into, where you see him building his web shooters. That's what Toby lost. The fact that he doesn't ever build his web shooters himself doesn't give you that super like science montage. You know what I mean?
Okay, like that was hilarious though. Them asking, does it come out of any other part of your body?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
But Tom and Toby is like, didn't like, yes, you saw Peter going, like he was kind of knowledgeable when they were at the museum and
Peter's a lot.
There was some for Tom Holland. In Homecoming, you see him in class, like building web fluid, during chemistry and stuff. So like, there's some of it. I just think this movie had more, and I liked it.
Yeah,
it was really cool
I think this was a good. I think this was good. This was a good introduction to that. I don't think it was ever touched on as hard as it was. Oh my gosh, I can't keep myself from saying things that Matt's just gonna pop a chubby over.
Well, going back to fan service, like. You're talking about how they entered. I think Garfield's entrance was good. Toby's, I would have loved to see that classic John Romita cover where Goblin flying through the city with Tom Holland's Peter Parker wrapped up, unmasked, and then
in the rope.
And like he's got him flying through him with the glider, and then you just see Toby like swinging for the save. I think that would have been like the best introduction.
I do wish that one of them would have been introduced like that.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but I brought it back to fan service because I'm interested to hear what Ish had to say as far as fan service goes.
Well, I mean, just the concept of fan service itself, it's used pretty often as a pejorative, right? Do you guys find that as a criticism?
Yeah, it can be a bad thing.
And it could be a good thing.
Go.
And in this case, from my personal experience, I found it to be a very good thing. So I'll state that I had a great time at this movie. I enjoyed it. I laughed. I cried. I want to see it again. And it was the fan service. It was when we finally got the 3 Spider-Mans, and I was just like, give me the, pour the Spider-Man on my face. But once I step out of that kind of that
calm down, Matt.
The fanboy bias, and let's say I look at the film more critically, I was like, this is not a very good movie. I didn't walk away from this going, this is a great movie. No, I had a great experience. This kind of almost backs up the argument that's been made that these Marvel movies are more an amusement ride than serious cinema. And with this, I felt that. It was a great ride. I had a great time. But the movie, it felt like a cobbled together movie of memes and Easter eggs, and the director is just a yes man to a committee of producers and executives who decided what this movie was going to be, and in many ways it felt very paint by numbers like that.
It was very ambitious.
It certainly was. So I will give them kudos. It could have been an absolute disaster, but they did manage to pull everything together, and give an experience. But there are so many issues with the movie, though. It's, along with like plot holes that we've discussed. One of my big problems and is the stakes of the movie. So in the comic books, Peter Parker's secret identity is crucial because it's to literally protect the lives of Aunt May and his loved ones. Mm-hmm. If his identity comes out, one of the villains is going to come up and kill Aunt May. It can't be. That's the highest of stakes. In this movie, it was admissions to MIT. Mm-hmm. When Peter Parker is telling Dr. Strange, I ruined my friends' lives. It's like, well, they didn't get into MIT. Boo fucking who. And then literally they didn't add more stakes. In this, Aunt May dies because of Peter Parker's actions. It's not Peter Parker has to act to save Aunt May. So I found a lot of that totally bothers me.
And it bothered me because the stakes of them getting MIT, as important as the movie tried to make it seem, it's completely fixed when he goes and talks to that woman on the bridge.
Absolutely.
So really,
and then there's that.
It was all done unnecessarily. That it's a whole bunch of bad decisions from the characters, just repeatedly bad decisions. Bad decisions from
the writers.
Yeah,
a lot of cobbled together ideas.
Exactly.
Pasted together.
Exactly. And that's not to say that this movie isn't fun. That's not to say that this movie
it was fun, yeah.
Yeah, that it's
but this goes to the original point. The fan service to me made it fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of fan service, but I am such a big Spider-Man fan that I was like, all right, I'm not going to be the get off my lawn guy tonight. Bring it on.
Yeah.
I'll take the Spidey. Hours later, then I was like, this bothers me, that bothers me. But the fan service was there, and they knew it's a movie about not how good this movie is, but how much we liked 5 previous movies. That's what this movie was about.
100%, because he doesn't even have his own villains in this movie.
Yeah,
we get no Vulture, we get no Mysterio making.
He's his own worst enemy almost.
Yeah. There's no. That's what I was saying.
The bumbling of the spell is the catalyst of it all.
Like he can't get out of his own. He's his own worst enemy because he can't get out of his own way, and that's why it's like, oh, we're gonna redeem everybody else as far as the villains go, but he gets no redemption. None of his villains get no redemption. You get no redemption for the Vulture, And funny enough, it's like I didn't even think about this until. Like, I'm sitting in a theater with No Way Home, going back all the way to Homecoming. What the hell does his first girlfriend think? Like, holy shit, this kid I was going to prom with is Spider-Man, and he put my dad in jail, and you never hear about her again. She never shows back up. That is a plot line that's not ever, it would have been cool to see her come in the Vulture outfit, and instead of it being him, it's her.
Are we supposed to still get Michael Keaton Vulture? Because Homecoming left that dangling with Vulture meeting Scorpion in jail. To me, that means like, okay, they're coming back.
Michael Keaton, I thought, mentioned something like a week or two ago about suiting up to play Vulture.
He's also in the Morbius. What doesn't make sense too?
Yeah, he's in the Morbius.
The timelines. He's in the Morbius trailer, and it's like, all right, they do kind of leave that open though, where you could get the Scorpion where he gets the outfit, the Matt Grogan stuff with J. Jonah Jameson now being in this universe. They kind of leave that open now too, but it's just like as far as his movie goes, it's just his movie by name only, really, because it's mostly dominated by the other Spider-Man and their villains.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so far Tom has had Vulture, Scorpion, who has not fought against, right?
Well, he's never even met.
He's had Shocker,
yeah.
Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I forgetting? Is there anybody else?
Well, and all the elements, technically.
Yeah, but those
Mysterio's projections or whatever.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Why am I blanking on his name? But Miles Morales.
Prowler.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I even talked about that with Matt and Max in the text. I said, dude, when are we going to get this Miles Morales thing tied up? Because I teased it in the first movie, and we haven't heard anything since. I agree with you, Matt. This feels like Tom Holland is in the movie, but it's not his movie. It's just, it feels like a Spider-Verse movie. Like that's.
I don't know if I agree with that. I still
agree
think
with
it was
that.
Tom Holland's movie.
It's definitely Tom's movie.
It was just packed with a lot of stuff, but it was still Tom Holland's movie.
And I made the comment on Friday or last Friday on the show in the spoiler-free review is like the suits. In the last couple of movies, the suits have meant something. In this one, it's like he's switching suits and you don't even know why.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the black and gold suit, the only reason he switches into that is because he turns his inside out, right?
No.
Yeah, he has green paint on it. It shows that in the thing. He has green paint on it. He's
Yeah.
like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And he flips it inside out, and you see the black and gold. And
Didn't Damage Control take one of the suits though?
I don't remember.
I'm
going to see it again tomorrow
Because they showed the charging station with the suit not in it. afterwards.
That's the
I
Iron
think so.
Spider suit, and
What was that?
so he gets the final suit is a hybrid of his Far From Home suit with the part with the nanotech that Ock rips off that reattaches to him, so he gets the other legs out of the back of it, but it's not the full Iron Spider suit. So he gets that hybrid suit at the end.
Which I didn't understand that. So Doc rips it off of his chest, and then he's walking around with the hole on his chest.
Doc
the nano
absorbs the nanos, yeah.
But he has like a literal hole in his suit and his chest for a portion of the movie. Doesn't nanotechnology like come back together? Like, wouldn't it close?
That was
hole
what
up?
I thought, but I don't know. Maybe Tony didn't make his suit as sophisticated because that happened in Infinity War, where
Maybe that's only
Thanos
limited
would
to
knock
Doc
off
Ock's
the
arms.
nanotech, and then yeah, I mean maybe. And, well, and also Tony had like a nanotech thing on his chest with additional particles, whereas I don't think Peter had that. So maybe that's why.
Yeah,
I was
don't
thinking
know.
the same thing through the movie.
And
though.
doesn't
I think
he
y'all are
have-
looking for plot holes, though. Did you like this movie?
Well,
I feel like all I'm hearing is whining.
and my other thing is like Edith. Doesn't he have control of, or sorry, Friday now? Doesn't he have control of Friday at the end of Far From Home? So why doesn't he use Friday to his advantage ever in this movie? He never uses that.
It
tech.
In
shows
this
the
movie, it says
glasses
Edith.
sitting.
It says Edith offline, so it's not
Oh.
Friday.
I thought it was Friday now, not Edith. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I got it mixed up. I thought it was Friday.
Friday is the tech that's in Iron Man's suit that,
Yeah, Friday.
Oh,
was
Edith.
Jarvis.
Yes, Edith. Okay, so Edith is the glasses then. Yes.
Yeah.
and it
So-
stands for something like even in death.
Even dead, I'm still the hero. Even dead,
Yeah.
I'm the hero.
Something like that.
That's
In
awesome.
the fabulous Tony Stark fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the moment where Electro says he was like, "Man, I thought Spider-Man would be black."
I thought that was.
I
Yeah,
thought
I
it was
popped
pretty
at that.
great.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's an additional tease that we're going to get Miles eventually.
Of course, for another Miles tease too. And what do you guys think that they tease that Ned's going to be a Hobgoblin by
Yes.
saying
I don't.
every version of Peter's best friend ended up dead or the villain or died trying to kill Peter.
I think there's
So
a
Ned
couple of
being
things.
Hobgoblin in the comics, that's kind of pretty obvious.
Yes, but like the fact that they had him like being able to use sorcerer powers.
I think the sorcery might be part of his Hobgoblin persona. I think they might
Okay.
make it a magical thing now.
I think there's
different from Green Goblin.
I think there's a couple of things alluding to Ned being Hobgoblin. The first of which is that line that you just talked about, Ish. The second of which is the actor has lost 130 pounds.
That's
Like
lifestyle choices, man. That's something I need to take.
no,
care of.
that's Marvel saying, "Hey, lose the weight so you can
could
play
be a
this
bit
thing."
of both.
No.
You want to
bit
be a
of both.
hero.
I
Shape
do
up.
Yeah.
think that him
Or the-
forgetting who Peter is opens the door for this, though. A little bit more. I think. That,
Yes, I
That's
think
true,
it-
and it can make it painful for Peter when he has to fight him.
Yeah,
He's
you're
like,
going to
"I
see
know
the
who you are, you don't
ramifications
know who
of.
I am. Sure.
I think you'll
Think-
see the ramifications of why Peter not being in their lives and how it's going to affect these characters.
There's a couple things that I noticed at the end of the movie when Tom or our MCU Peter walks into the cafe and sees MJ and Ned there. First of all, Ned comes in and he does not look like his cheery normal self. He's wearing all black. He looks a bit like an emo kid, outcast type kid. I think Peter not being in his life probably meant he was picked on his whole life, and he was, he didn't have that best friend.
He wasn't the guy in the chair anymore.
Yeah, he barely talks to MJ as if they're really close, because MJ was only close to Ned because of Peter. So I think that whole spell is going to have repercussions that Peter was not did not think
Based
of
on what
in
you
the
just
moment.
said, that's how Peter ruins his friends' lives.
is by making them
Yeah.
forget him.
Yeah. And they no longer have this crazy experience that, I'm Spider-Man's sidekick
Yeah, or Spider-Man's girlfriend.
or girlfriend.
And
Notice,
it-
I guess there's an Easter egg at the end at the diner. MJ is still wearing the necklace that he gave her in Far From Home.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
the Black Dahlia.
That
Yeah.
makes
Yeah, I
sense,
didn't
though.
notice it. I'll have
She's
to
wearing
check
that at the end.
I mean, why would
I thought it was
yeah.
busted.
Yeah, but I think she liked it that way. She said that she liked
Yeah,
it.
she like, yeah.
I didn't notice.
I didn't
I'll have to
notice
look
that.
for it.
But that makes
going
sense.
for
I
a
mean, why would
rewatch, so-
why would that be wiped away? I mean, the memory of how she got it could be wiped away, but the physical item.
But it
doesn't need to go
also
anywhere.
could hint that maybe she still has some sort of closeness to it.
I was hoping we were going to get, and don't get mad at me for a BVS kind of comment here. I was kind of hoping we were going to get a similar moment to where at the end of BVS, you see the sand move at Superman's coffin. I was really hoping we were going to get some small hint that they remembered who he was, that somebody remembered who he was.
That'd be
Even
funny.
if it was just a little bit.
The guy at
No,
the
you got the
sandwich
Venom.
deli.
You got the
deli
Venom.
guy. He's like, I still know you.
You got the Venom tease
Venom.
instead.
Yeah. I was just wondering. I was thinking maybe Happy at the grave was going to somehow show some inkling of knowing him.
That whole scene.
Yeah, what is
confused me
Happy
too.
just hanging out at this grave all day? Anyone who comes to the grave, all of a sudden Happy's standing there beside him.
So he
He's a
says,
protector,
Like,
man.
it's so weird.
He wants everyone to know that was
Happy
his
was a
girlfriend. So
train wreck in this movie.
he just
Dude.
he just has a lawn chair set up and he just like scoots in whenever someone shows up.
if you were
Oh,
dating
man.
Marissa Tomei, wouldn't you want everybody to know that was your girlfriend too?
I'd start to think maybe you're the person who killed her. You know,
So I thought that was interesting too, because Happy asks Peter, he says, how'd you know her? And he says, oh, I met her through Spider-Man. And Happy says, oh, I met her through Spider-Man too. How did you meet her through Spider-Man and you don't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Like, that doesn't make any
it's gotta be
sense
a
to me.
weird
Weird
memory. We're just
identity.
like,
They remember
that make
Spider-Man,
sense?
but they don't remember Peter Parker. So therefore, nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man because Peter Parker doesn't exist. So all he has is Spider-Man.
Interesting. So there's do you guys think anybody that was in this movie is going to make an appearance in the Doctor Strange movie?
No, honestly
I'm not thinking.
possibly Tom Holland.
Yeah, I think Tom Holland maybe, but I don't think it would be for a big role.
Because there has been
Maybe
rumors
he shows
that
up at the very end asking for a redo on the spell or something.
there has been rumors potentially Toby, being that he has a relationship with Sam Raimi.
That's interesting. I've
I mean,
heard
maybe-
Bruce Campbell might have a really crazy.
Isn't Bruce
Spider-Man role.
Campbell in all Sam Raimi's movies?
Yes,
Bruce Campbell has
yes.
to be in it.
So this
somehow.
rumor, I'm pretty excited because it's probably going to be something fun.
Well,
He
Bruce
could be like an
Campbell's always
alternate
funny.
universe Mysterio, which is what Raimi always wanted him to play, was Mysterio.
Oh, really? Well, because Bruce Campbell played a different character in every single Spider-Man movie.
That's right.
It was just funny. He was like the Stan Lee cameo type thing.
Yeah.
He was in
How
the Spider-Man 3. He was an overeager restaurant
Maitre d',
maitre d'. He was a jerk at the theater in the first movie or the second movie.
The first one, he was a ring announcer.
Yeah,
That's right.
the
Bonesaw.
wrestling, Yeah,
Yeah.
He's
He
the one
gave him
that
the
names his-
Spider-Man name. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Because
Did
what
you
is
guys catch the Craven the Hunter cameo?
No.
no?
So in the when the multiverse is cracking, and they kind of show these silhouettes. So there's some I missed. So supposedly there was the Vulture, there was Scorpion, there was what people say looked like kind of a Green Goblin-ish, and I definitely saw Craven. He had the spear, he had the furs.
Okay.
I
so-
saw the furs. I
Real-
just
it's
wasn't sure who that
blinking,
was.
You missed it. So I blinked. I missed the other ones, but I definitely saw Craven.
So that okay, I know which one you're talking about now. My mind immediately popped to the Loki from the show, the big black Loki, the big what that wears the fur. That's who I thought that was. I don't know what is it. What is his name in the show? It's something Loki. He's War Loki or something like that.
Warrior
I don't
Loki.
remember.
Yeah.
That's who I thought it was, but Craven the Hunter makes a lot more sense, especially because
Mhm.
Sony would probably want some sort of
Yeah.
tease for Craven that's coming out what, in a year, something like that.
With Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So that book can skyrocket higher out of my price range, even higher than it already is.
Get these books now. Get the Kingpin books now. If you guys are
What I-
specking on this kind of stuff.
What I was kind of disappointed of is I really wanted to see there's a comic book I remember reading as a kid, and I thought that they would do some sort of tease to that comic book when they introduced Daredevil, but Daredevil, Matt Murdock dressing up in the Spider-Man suit to show everybody that Peter is not Spider-Man.
Hmm.
Do you guys know which book I'm talking about?
I remember that happening in the animated series.
No, it's definitely a book. I don't remember that happening in the animated series.
Yeah, there's a whole the chameleon dresses up like Peter Parker or Spider-Man and commits a bunch of crimes, and Peter Parker gets put on trial for it, and Matt Murdock has to like clear his name.
No, this one was the book was Spider-Man apparently murdered somebody. If I'm remembering correctly. There's times like these that, dude, I miss Mike.
Did you guys catch that there was an inference that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man may have killed people?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I forget how the line goes,
rage.
but there's a line where he's like, his
I was rage-filled. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, is that a Spider-Man who actually kills people?
I think I don't know if that's what that means or not, but I knew what you were referring to.
It kind of suggested it, yeah.
Yeah. Could be.
Can I bring up
interpreted
another nitpick? And I know this
Sure.
is the nitpick episode, but I'm always gonna say it. I love the movie, I had fun, but here's the nitpick. In the trailers, I got really excited that when they showed the parts with like the Inception style scenes, I'm talking about, ended up being the mirror universe.
Yeah.
With everything folding over each other and all that craziness. So when I remember seeing that in the trailers, thinking, oh man, like that's probably the climax of the movie, and it's going to be this insane like ending, all like that. And it wasn't. It was just this kind of throwaway scene between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and it could have served a much greater purpose, considering how they went for the really eye-popping effects and everything. It ended up just being, he goes, oh, it's the mirror universe, and then they chased the subway, whatever, and then it was over. So
I don't know why, but I always assumed that was going to be more in the middle of the movie.
Really? I was kind of hoping that was going to be the big climax, but anyway.
Well, go ahead, Lance. What were you going to say?
Oh, I think I found something to it. It was Daredevil playing to the camera where Peter Parker dresses up as Daredevil.
Maybe. I mean, Elektra's doing it, so why not?
I don't know. I wasn't listening in the last 5 minutes.
What do you guys think of Statue of Liberty having Cap's shield?
I thought that was awesome.
Cool.
That's cool.
I thought that was so awesome.
I love how they're really playing into the Captain America being the savior of the world type thing, when really it was Tony Stark that sacrificed himself. Like Iron Man's getting no love. I mean, we saw at the end of Hawkeye the special musical number from the play, and it's literally named Rogers the Musical. Like, where's the love for Tony Stark?
Did you know that? You see that billboard popped up in the movie several times
for Rogers the Musical.
Rogers the Musical,
yeah.
Did it, dude? That there was so much happening that I'm like, a lot of it feels like a blur, man. Like, I need to go watch it again. I don't feel like I'm giving this review any justice because A, it's been a week since I've seen it, and 2, I usually get a rewatch of these things before we talk about them.
I would too. I've been trying to get in all week to see it, but it's been sold out. Like, the next show I could get into is at 10:30 tomorrow night, which I'm gonna go see.
They're predicting this could be a top 3 movie of all time.
It already has a top 3 opening.
I mean, yeah.
So
yeah, it's successful.
We had we talked about the movie. Let's talk about the cameo at the end real quick, and the Eddie Brock being blipped into this universe and being told about Thanos and all the heroes and villains and stuff like that with Venom and him leaving behind that symbiote and the ramifications that's going to have. We're going to get to see Black Suit Spider-Man in the MCU.
Yes, we are.
And that's awesome. And Ish brought up a point about Spec, and we don't really ever talk Spec on this show because it's not something I'm big into. But I've got my daughter coming, and I've started a comic book collection, and Ish has a young son, and so does Max, and everyone's always talking about, well, how do I set them up for this? What can I do to get my kids a comic book collection to benefit them later in life? And the best advice someone said to me is just buy any issue of Spider-Man, because almost every issue of Spider-Man has a key in it. So if you're looking right now and you want to get in on the ground floor of some Black Suit Spider-Man stuff, and I know we've seen him in movies before, but when he hits the MCU, he's gonna explode. One book right now that I think is out there that's criminally undervalued, and you could still get it for about $100 raw, is Secret Wars 8, the first. Well, it's tied for the
if
first.
you can find it $100 raw, point me there. That book
quote
has
unquote appearance of the black suit. I used
to have that poster.
You can get it on eBay right now, $100 raw all day. So I mean, if you can find it at your local comic shop or at on eBay or anything right now, that's a good book to start a collection on. The other one is Amazing Spider-Man 252. His first time in continuity wearing the black suit. That's going to be a huge book too.
It's the first release of the black suit. It's the second in continuity.
Is it?
This came out in January, but Secret Wars is the origin of the suit, and that came out in the summer. There was like a 6 months deviation.
But then there's the what isn't it? A team up.
Marvel Team Up came out on the exact same day as Spectacular Spider-Man 90, and that's second appearance of the black suit. That's an excellent book to spec on because it's got Black Cat, second appearance of Black Suit, and that's super dirt cheap still.
See, I thought 252 was the first, like in the Amazing Spider-Man
That's
title.
the first time anyone ever saw it because Secret Wars 8 came out so late. But in the continuity of the Marvel Universe, Secret Wars 8 is the moment where they meet the symbiote for the very first time. And 252 technically takes place after that.
So then, of course, you got, this book is probably out of everyone, if you're just starting out, everyone's price range. Amazing Spider-Man 300. That's probably out of the price range now because even that book raw goes for a ridiculous amount of money.
How much usually?
I don't even know what I haven't even looked lately to see what it is. Raw.
We recently sold a 7.0 raw for $725.
For us uninitiated, what does raw mean?
Raw. So here you go.
Not graded.
This is raw right here. Not graded. It's just the book itself. Graded means it's encapsulated. And this is another one here. Web of Spider-Man #1. You can get this book for like $20. This is the last time he wears the black suit before it goes off to Eddie Brock. So this is the last time Spider-Man wears the black suit before it turns into Venom. So that's all good stuff. Like that book, you can get that book easy $20. Like I said, 300 is probably out of your price range, but if you can get your hands on a 252 raw or the Marvel Team Up, what is it? Marvel Team Up 141, I want to say.
Yeah, 141.
Or Secret Wars 8. Like I said, Secret Wars 8 you can get
That's
raw
a tough one to find, the Marvel Team Up. That's a tough one to find.
The Secret Wars 8 you can get raw for $100 still. So if you can find any of those books, that's a great way to start a collection that could definitely help profit some future endeavors based on how they go with the MCU.
So you were talking, that's what led us into this conversation, that end credit scene. I was over the moon with that end credit scene because the end credit scene in Venom 2 pissed me off because I don't want to see that Eddie Brock in the MCU. I want to see a different Eddie Brock that's hates Peter Parker, and you know what I mean? And this, having him sucked back over to his universe and leaving the symbiote there, opens the door for the traditional Venom that we all know, and not this polished, rounded edged.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be the traditional Venom we know, because this skips Secret Wars and he shows up on a bar table.
Yeah, I am curious how he's going to.
I'm not happy. As cool it is that Venom's now in the MCU. I didn't like that scene at all. With Tom Hardy was mumbling. You couldn't understand what he was saying.
Oh no!
Just the whole bar scene was weird. It was just so haphazard.
The scene was bad, except for the fact that Danny from Ted Lasso is in it.
Danny Rojas.
That's the first thing Aaron said. Danny Rojas, and she started screaming in the theater.
The scene is bad. Like, that's always been my issue with Tom Hardy. It sounds like he has a mouthful of bubble gum. You might as well get Pete Carroll to play that role. But the fact that they fixed the end of Venom, that pissed me off, and kind of retroactively fixed it to take him back out of the MCU, and now we can have a different version of Venom. Yes, the scene was done poorly, but the what could potentially happen is what gets me excited.
My fear is that we don't get the Eddie Brock version of Venom in the MCU.
And we're gonna
get the Flash Thompson version, or we're gonna get the Harry. Eventually, we find out that there is a Harry Osborn in this, and like I'm afraid that they're gonna find him, put him in a lab, and then you're gonna be introduced to the Harry Osborn of this universe, and him and Peter become best friends now that he doesn't have Ned or MJ, and you're gonna get Harry Osborn, the ultimate Venom, Harry Osborn,
like
Venom,
the Dane DeHaan one from Amazing Spider-Man 2. Wasn't he kind of? They don't explicitly say it's a symbiote, but it kind of is.
No, he's definitely Green Goblin there, but
he has all the black. Like, remember
it's like green up on his face, yeah. But I know what you're talking about. But
he kind of looks like they don't explicitly say it, but because he was being experimented.
Can you guys really picture this current Flash Thompson being Venom?
No.
Like that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
He's just been such a big douche. Like, every time he's on screen, he's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not really like, I can't imagine him getting the suit and fighting Peter Parker, because I think he almost is like in love with Peter Parker. You know what I mean? Like the way he teases him, it's more like a crush. Like when a small boy like pushes a girl over, like, and is teasing her, but he actually like that's what his character feels like. And I don't know if I want that either. You know, some Venom wanting to run around and bone Peter Parker.
I could see himself attaching him to like Joe Magliano's version of Flash Thompson, where he's older now and more war grizzled and ready to go, you know, and becoming Agent Venom versus the Flash Thompson, but in the MCU. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they tie that in.
Yeah, I have a feeling though that it's going to be the Harry thing that you were saying, because we kind of got that in the video game. We saw that's how the symbiote was being introduced in the video game.
Yeah,
and I've read a few reports that from substantial sources saying that they're eyeing Timothée Chalamet to play Harry Osborn.
Well, as far as he's best friends with Zendaya, he's good friends with who's dating Tom Holland, who's good friends with, you know, he's like linked in with all of that
part of their crew,
networking,
that
baby.
crew, yeah.
And he's becoming a big name right now. I mean, he's a pretty recognizable face. I don't know. I see it on the horizon that's potentially what we're gonna get.
Who knows?
I don't know. But so the last end credit scene was the Doctor Strange trailer, which they released a trailer today, but it's significantly shorter than the one they released at the end of Spider-Man. I haven't watched it yet, but that's just what I've heard. Have you guys watched it?
I did. It is definitely shorter.
For the trailer we got, apparently I blinked and missed America Chavez, I guess, was in it. Everyone's
you see her back. You see her back. And like, she like, whoops, I didn't mean to punch my mic, but she like punches her fist, and you see the coat with the star on the back of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this one, you actually see her from the front side. She's standing next to Rachel McAdams in the trailer that dropped today. And they're saying Rachel McAdams is in some sort of suit. I forget who they were speculating that she could be playing. Is this Clara ring a bell, or Claire? Or, Clea? Yeah. Do you guys know who that is?
No. She is one of the oh god, an alien race, not Kree or Skrull. I'm brain farting it right now.
She's
I'm
not
just gonna say someone in the chat.
She's not Shatari, is she?
Not Chitauri. Clea.
Yeah, Clea. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, I don't know. The trailer looks cool though.
It just says she's a sorceress and lover of Doctor Strange. Maybe I was thinking of someone else then.
Yeah, she's in the dark dimension. She's the sorceress supreme. Is Clea. She currently serves as a sorceress supreme in the dark dimension, which we know that that's going to be introduced because we see that in the trailer that they show at the end of.
Sure. If they're doing Lady Thor with Thor's girlfriend, they can do Lady Doctor Strange with his girlfriend. I guess that's the pattern. That's the pattern now.
But we see the Doctor Strange from What If.
Venom. MJ's Venom confirmed.
We do see the Doctor Strange from What If, the dark sorcerer, in the trailer of the live action version. Which, man, I just wish they would make.
Which gives me hope that maybe fucking crazy ass Ultron comes back.
Yeah,
because that was my favorite part of What If, was that the god Ultron.
Yeah, the one that goes around and just beats up on the Watcher and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ultron's kind of a sore subject for me because I got so excited for that movie when they announced James Spader was the voice. I was like, this is gonna be fucking awesome. And that movie was a dud. Downright dud.
Well, let's switch gears real quick since we've pretty much beaten the Spider-Man No Way Home to death. Did everyone here watch today's Hawkeye?
I did.
I still haven't seen last week's.
I want to talk Hawkeye because there's a part in there that I think made me feel like it ties into What If, but
you know what? Maybe I'll make my exit here on the show.
All right, Ish. We appreciate you.
You're awesome.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. If I have lag, it's because of my CenturyLink. It's the worst. I gotta get rid of it.
We'll have to get you on more moving forward, Ish.
Thanks, guys.
Definitely.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for joining us, Ish.
Merry Christmas.
Guys, if you're ever in the Scottsdale area, check out Ish's shop. Hit up Fantastic Worlds Comics. It is a great shop to visit. You know, Bill and Ish are very knowledgeable people. Great shop. Lots of key books. They've got so many Spider-Man grails there right now that I'm just like, oh my God, I want that. I want that. I want that. But my wallet will be crying. So, yeah, shout out to Ish and everyone over at Fantastic Worlds. Let's talk Hawkeye though. Man, what did you guys think about this episode of Hawkeye? I was kind of let down a little bit.
So I stayed up until 1:00 for it to come on, watched it, forgot that it was quite long, so I kind of regretted it. Watched it again. I know Max had told me that he wasn't a big fan of how Kingpin was portrayed. I loved that.
I thought it was awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Kingpin was portrayed so well.
It's how I remember him being from both the animated series and from comics that I've read. I love that they put the little Easter eggs in there with the Hawaiian shirt and everything like that. And that he has the cane now. And Vincent D'Onofrio just is the perfect embodiment of that character.
He was more of the menacing Kingpin that we know and less a frightened child with Asperger's.
Yeah, completely agree.
He was in the Daredevil movie. It was a show.
Yeah, I prefer the Daredevil rendition, but I did enjoy Kingpin. I just basically my main gripe was that I love Kate Bishop and I think that she has the potential to be a very formidable Avenger, just like Hawkeye is. But she's still young and very relatively untrained. Kingpin should have wiped the floor with her. She should not have been able to knock him out. That's it. That's my only real gripe.
I don't understand what do you mean knocking out? I don't understand what you're talking about.
He knocked him out.
Yeah, he basically beat the shit out of her, and then she used the coin trick that Hawkeye taught her to take him out.
To make an explosion. Like when you say knockout, like knocking out means that she punched him in the face and knocked him out. That's not what
it doesn't. It means she knocked him out. She knocked him out.
Knocking out specifically means that he got hit in the head and was knocked out.
Well, she took him out.
Yeah, she made an explosion, but it didn't kill him. It just threw him back. But you also have to pay attention to the scene. He was not interested in her. So she keeps coming back and trying to hit him, and he's just throwing her like a rag doll. He's not. He says, "Mind your business." He's not interested. So you see how little of an impact she had on him, and he wasn't even focused on her. He just wanted her mother.
Like that was sweet when he rips that door off the car.
Oh, I agree.
Throws that, and then she shoots him with the arrow, and he's like, "Bitch, please," and smacks that away.
Yeah. And then the exploding thing was literally every single arrow in her quiver exploding at the same time, and all that did was knock him across the room. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it was awesome. And yes, knockout means KO, punch to the face. It's a boxing term.
I know English. I know English well.
Well, no. When you were talking about, I was like, when did she punch him? When did she punch him? That's what I was trying to figure out.
She didn't punch him. She knocked him out unconscious. She knocked him unconscious. Anyways, you know what? You have convinced me that I'm wrong. Honestly,
nice.
You're right. That's
there's a first time for everything.
Oh, whatever.
Score one for the good guys.
I can be convinced. No, you're right, because he wasn't really paying that close attention to her. He was just kind of throwing her out of his way. And then I wouldn't say she was lucky, but she basically had to use everything in her arsenal to knock the guy out. Also, question, it seems like he has superpowers, which is different than the Daredevil series. Is that why the arrow couldn't pierce him, or do you think he has armor like in the Daredevil series? Like
I think he was wearing. I think he's got like Kevlar on under his shirt or something.
That's what I'm thinking too. And the elephant in the room. Can we talk really quick about the Echo thing? Kingpin ain't dead, right?
No, he's not.
So that leads directly into the Echo show. So that's what I was going to ask you. Like, does he have some sort of superpowers? Because he gets shot in the face, then he goes and gets an eye transplant because he goes blind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back and wants to kill Echo and Daredevil. Getting shot in the face from as close as I saw her at would kill anyone. It doesn't matter how the gun goes, that would kill you, especially from somebody that's a marksman like Echo is.
Not necessarily. If she shoots him in the head and the bullet deflects off a piece of skull or something, one way, because not everybody who gets shot in the head dies, but it could affect a part of his brain where it takes his vision away, or she shoots him in the eyes, or she the gun misfires and the flash of like the muzzle or it hits his Kevlar or whatever. But
I was thinking he just knocks the gun away and she shoots the air.
No, because you literally hear the body fall.
Yeah.
I don't remember hearing a body fall.
But they did. I mean, they did the typical trope, the TV show trope where like Walking Dead is notorious for doing it.
They don't
where
show
like they pull up. Yeah, they don't show the character die because they fully intend on bringing them back later.
But
then if I didn't hear a body hit the ground, but if a body did hit the ground, couldn't it also be that he knocked the gun away and just smacked her?
You're meant to not know who it was.
Yeah.
But if you know like Echo's story and Echo's history, that is a arc in the comic where she shoots him in the face. It's literally ripped from the comic, slapped on the TV. She shoots him in the face, point blank range. He goes blind, and then he falls on hard times and basically gets this eye transplant and has to reestablish himself as the kingpin of crime in New York.
I mean, I guess that could be cool. I was just hoping. I like that. I wouldn't have. That's fine, I guess. I was just hoping to see him as Kingpin as we know him for a bit longer before something like that would happen. But, we got to see him for basically 3 seasons in Daredevil. So I know it's not the same Kingpin, but it's
I think we're supposed to forget all of that, right? Like none of that is canon.
It seems like it. Yeah.
It seems like it's not, yeah.
But
he's playing the character the same, pretty much.
Well, I noticed that he talks a bit more menacing, and in this one he's with the cane. He has a limp. He's quite a bit bigger than he was in the show because Vincent D'Onofrio is not that big of a guy, so he's wearing like some sort of fat.
He's kind of got like facial twitches and stuff.
Yeah,
more so
this is a guy that's seen some hard shit. But it leads me to believe that Kingpin is going to be a main character of Echo, right?
Yes, he is. He's huge to her backstory.
And hopefully this means he'll be in Spider-Man too. Like, I mean, that'd be cool if we get to see him in one of these Spider-Man movies.
I'm sure they're going to introduce him in Spider-Man. I would love to see the Daredevil be a part of Echo too, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Well, I think like we should say, the MCU, I think, is establishing they're looking at street level and then cosmic. So the next 10 years, instead of having a connected event like Thanos coming and all that connects these movies, you're going to have these street level heroes with Hawkeye, and you're going to have Kingpin ruling that street level hero as the villain, and he's going to be like involved with all the street level heroes, and then you're going to have the Skrulls and the Kree and whatever they're going to do with the cosmic stuff. And Kang for the cosmic stuff. And I think they're going to cross paths at some point. And
Secret Wars being a
or Secret
crime.
Invasion. Yeah.
Both
that's going to be a Marvel show, but I like that Oh shit, that reminds me. The other thing that we talked about that we didn't touch on Spider-Man No Way Home that ties into what we're talking about is it kind of gives you a definitive idea of how long Nick Fury has been in space.
How so?
Oh, because they say he's been off world for like a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you know how long Nick Fury has been gone since this movie picks up right after the events.
Yeah, so that's right, because they say he's been gone a year, right? Isn't that what they say?
Homecoming, yeah.
But he was he blipped, so that means the movie takes place a year after. It seemed like Far From Home took place like right after Endgame, but it seems like that's not the case.
No, yeah, there's time in between. But back to Hawkeye though. So like the other thing that really bothered me about this episode is like it seemed like a lot of this episode was done through reshoots. Like it goes back to my thought last week of that's not Vincent D'Onofrio. Like
Bullshit.
a lot of these, a lot of these characters, the dialogue felt off, the scenes felt off. They didn't feel like they were talking to each other. Like when you're watching the scene between her mom and Kingpin, a lot of that dialogue feels off. Like it's done in reshoots, like they're not doing it at the same time. It's cut together. It doesn't feel fluent or right.
I don't agree. See, my only gripe was the Kingpin thing, and you guys have convinced me that I was wrong. So my score originally coming into this was like 3.5 out of 5, and now I'm more at like a 4.5 out of 5. This episode was awesome. I don't agree with that at all. I thought the dialogue was fine. I thought it didn't feel like things were disconnected. I thought Yelena and freaking
she's the best part.
Kate were hilarious. They were the best part of the whole episode.
I want to watch a show just with the two of them.
I honestly hope that Hawkeye season 2 is like Kate and her.
That was good, but then when you get to the final confrontation between Yelena and Clint on the ice, it falls flat.
No, I loved that. I thought that was really good.
I think it falls flat. Like
I
there's
liked
nothing.
it.
I don't feel like there's enough substance there, and it's over too quick. Like she's literally hell bent on killing this man, and then she's just like, "Oh my god." You know,
I could see that she kind of held back her punches a little bit. It seemed like I don't think that she ever.
I don't
really
think she wanted to kill him
ever, but I think she felt that she had to.
When do we get this character? When does this character get the chance to step out of Natasha's shadow and be her own individual self? And they had that opportunity to take that in Hawkeye, but it didn't because it reverted back to being about Natasha. She's like, this character is like perpetually in her sister's shadow when you want to see her step out of it and take that.
We've only seen this character in 2021. So I think it's fine that her arc with
2.5 episodes.
Led into one more series. I think the Natasha stuff is done. Like they may bring it up again because she is tied to an Avenger that we've known for 10 years, but I don't know. I didn't mind that. I think it's fine.
I think Natasha's eventually going to come back.
Yeah, with the
I thought that too. And the end credit scene you guys were talking about, with the Rogers musical, kind of felt like we got rickrolled
a
little bit because I was actually waiting for them to cut to the audience and you see Natasha sit like the battle world or the
I thought there was going to be something.
Natasha sitting there watching this play or something like.
Well, I thought it was just going to be anything. I thought Hawkeye was going to be there with his kids and say, "Oh, this isn't so bad,"
or like Red Guardian could be there or something like. Somebody else was going to be in that audience and it was going to panic cut to them. And
I thought it was pretty interesting that you really don't get like, yes, that's an after credit scene technically, but you don't get any after credits Easter eggs throughout this whole series. That's the first time that Marvel's ever done that. Like where you don't get not one, like because even WandaVision had him, Falcon had him, Loki had him, but this one, nothing. Like I thought that was a bit strange. I also felt like the whole series was done too quickly. I felt like they could have stretched, maybe added a little bit more into 8 episodes. I wanted more Kingpin. I loved the fight on the ice where they're using all their trick arrows.
Well, and I almost feel like this episode was supposed to be something different, and they came in and changed it at the last minute because they spent all this time building Jack up to look like this menacing figure. Like he killed Armand and he did all this stuff, and he was supposed to be Swordsman, the guy that trained Hawkeye. And then at the end, they pulled a Richard Boner on us again, you know.
Well, he is Swordsman, I think. I think we're going to see more of him.
Well, he's running around with this show. He's a glorified LARPer. Like he's like, all right, I get to use this sword that I'm just carrying around to this black tie gala, and he starts fighting people, but he turns out to be a joke, and it turns out that Kate's mom is the bad guy, and it's like, all right, like it felt like there was supposed to be a different big bad, because I kind of feel like the Kingpin stuff really didn't fit well. Like I loved it, but I feel like it in the grand scheme of things, building up to what we got, it didn't fit well. So it felt like they had another villain in mind for this, and at the last minute they were like, all right, well, we can't use that because we've got a different plan for this, so we have to rework it, and that's how they got them to allow them to use Kingpin instead of whatever this other villain was supposed to be.
I felt like since they announced Vera Farmiga's casting, I always felt like she was going to end up being a bad guy. When they said she's playing Kate's mother, like I was like, oh, they wouldn't cast such a big name actress, because Vera Farmiga is a big name actress.
I've honestly never heard of her until now.
Oh yeah, she's in tons of stuff.
Same.
Bates Motel. She's
and
in
what was the movie you just said?
Bates Motel.
Oh,
Psycho.
I never watched that.
She's in lots of things. She's been an actress for maybe 30 years in high profile.
I've definitely seen her in some stuff before, but
she's in all the Conjuring movies. She's the main character in all the Conjuring movies. Like she's a big actress.
Nah, I don't watch that crap either. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Vera Farmiga is a big actor. Aside from these two, she's probably the biggest actress in the show. Aside from these
she's
two,
bigger than D'Onofrio.
Oh yes, absolutely. D'Onofrio's only had two main things that he's really famous for. Well, Kingpin, I guess you could count, so 3. But Law and Order and Full Metal Jacket.
Really I only know him from Kingpin.
No, dude, he's been in a ton of stuff, because he was in The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston. He plays Vince Vaughn's brother in that.
I forgot about that movie.
D'Onofrio's been in a lot of stuff, dude.
No, they've all been in a lot of things, but Vera Farmiga, I think because we are comic book fans and fans of this genre, we know who he is. But Vera Farmiga's been in a lot more things and a lot more high profile things. And her sister's famous as well. Her sister's in all the American Horror Story shows and been in a ton of stuff. So her sister's famous in her own right as well.
Most people are going to know Vincent D'Onofrio from Men in Black, because he's Edgar in Men in Black.
Yeah, but he's deformed pretty much the whole movie. So I didn't even realize that was him until 10 years after that movie came out.
I mean, he's also in Jurassic World. He was in the Chips reboot. He is in the original Jurassic Park. Like, he's in a lot of stuff, man.
Well, but he's not a household name.
No, well, he is. I think he is more so now with his run on Law and Order, but
which he got fired from. The last 4 or 5 seasons were done without him.
Well, I think he left the show. But
no, they fired both of them because of low ratings.
Oh, really?
I used to be a fan of that show and stopped watching when he left. It's the only Law and Order I watched.
I was more of an SVU guy.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I'm not a 65-year-old man kind of a guy. I don't watch those shows.
Criminal Intent's awesome, dude.
I'm just giving you guys crap.
No, I kind of assumed that she was always going to be a bad guy, and I kind of liked Jack's. I think Jack has like a future in the MCU.
He does, but they have they're small issues. But in the first, I think it was in the first episode, he says some stuff that's really skeevy. And so it's like, well, now he's a good
skeevy guy. I think he's just a skeevy guy. Like even even when he's fighting people in this last episode, he's kind of skeevy.
He makes a comment. I just wanted to say this one thing. He makes a comment to Armand about how he doesn't have any money yet, but once I marry her, I'm going to. Like, just the way he said it feels like I'm only after her money.
Oh no, are you talking about guy. At the first episode?
Yeah.
When where he bids on the watch or bids on the item, and he's like, "You don't have the money for that," and he's like, "I'll inherit it."
Yeah.
So I think he was talking about inheriting it from him. But I want to test your guys' knowledge. Do you know what the significance to this book is?
Is that Spider-Man No More?
No, yeah.
I do.
But do you know what the significance of it is?
All I know is that he hangs up that's pretty much what Spider-Man 2 is adapted from.
Kind of. This is the first appearance of the Kingpin.
Really?
Comics. Yep. Spider-Man 50 is the very first appearance of the Kingpin in comics. That's an astronomically priced book, by the way.
Thank you.
How much is that book
Spider-Man
for usually?
No More.
That book right there, dude. I hope you have you might need to take a second mortgage out on your house for it. No,
really?
it's not that bad. It's not like 129 for its Punisher bad, but it's an expensive book, man. And it's only going to go up in price. Because of he's in the MCU now. The MCU just seems to like blow everything up.
Oh yeah, because it's all these speculative markets and all that other stuff.
Raw for like a low grade, you're looking at $850.
Wow,
that is a lot.
You get one that's graded like a 3.5, which is a very low grade. You're looking at $1,500.
Wow, it's insane. Yeah, all I know from that book is the scene with that I remember is the scene where he throws his suit in the garbage can, and I remember seeing that in Spider-Man 2 in the theater, and I'm like, it was pulled directly from that. Yeah,
it's the last page in the book, I believe.
They even threw his suit over, placed exactly like it is in that picture, with him walking away from it in the rain. I don't know. I liked it. I felt like Hawkeye, like it was just too quick, and I felt like they teased this big moment at the end of the last episode, and I just didn't feel like that moment was that big. I felt like it could have been bigger. I felt like we could have gotten 2 episodes where Kingpin was, because they just introduced him and they, yeah, that picture right there. It's like the Spider-Man 2 like recreated it to a T. They tease Vincent D'Onofrio at the end of episode 4. Well, they kind of teased him in the first episode or whenever they introduced Echo.
Episode like 3.
Yeah, when it's her uncle or whatever.
Yeah, when he's a kid. Cute kid.
I felt like if they would have had him in 2 episodes and put a little bit more of the relationship into focus between Echo and Kingpin, that scene at the end where Echo shoots him in the face would have held a lot more weight.
Well, that's why I think that he originally was not meant to be the bad guy or involved in this series at all. And that they
part of me wonders if their intention was that he was going to be teased at like a post-credit scene or something originally, because it did feel like he was rushed into the final episode. And
yeah,
I don't know,
but I like this movie or this episode. I like the trick arrows. I like that the LARPers finally got their just dues, and they got their costumes, and that none of them died. Dude, I loved the second Pym arrow, where this tracksuit mafia is driving the truck at him, and she shoots it, and it shrinks, and the owl comes in and takes him away, and yeah, like so good.
Or can we talk about the part where Kate blocks a punch from that guy, and he's like, "Oh, I wanted to thank you. Your advice with my girlfriend was such great. Why don't you see Maroon 5? It was wonderful." He's like, "What's with the gun?" "Oh, sorry.
I still have a job to do." Yeah.
The tracksuit bros, I really hope they come back, because
what's their moving company name? Moving
Trust a Bro.
Trust a Bro.
But they're funnies, man.
But like, I hope in future movies they're like NPCs. You know what I mean? Like they have in video games where you're just like the movie's going on and you just see a Trust a Bro truck drive by in the background, or just like little hints that they're still around everywhere. Like I would love that, man.
They're not a very competent crew, but they're funny.
Their company's called Trust a Bro. Do you know anybody that would call a company called Trust a Bro to move their shit?
Right. But I like that we got the payoff of the watch, and you kind of got that
she is Mockingbird
nod that she is Mockingbird, and
so
Agent
tell
19.
me, because that's what I was going to ask. I'm dumb. I knew it meant she was S.H.I.E.L.D., but 19, that's Mockingbird. That's
yes, in the comics 19. That's Mockingbird. Yeah.
Okay.
So her name was probably changed to protect their identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't understand. If her name was changed, why didn't they change Clint's name? Is it because Clint was still fighting with S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well, he was still working for him. Yeah.
So because Laura or Bobby or whatever left is why she changed her name, is because she's
Yeah,
no
to
longer
protect to protect her identity and the family.
And I kind of felt like every time they showed the Rolex, I was like, that's a dude's watch. Like,
Yeah,
because most female watches, the face is really small because they have more dainty wrists, I guess. And men's watches are big. It looked like a men's Rolex. So I kind of thought that was deliberate to like tease you away from her.
I mean, but I hope we get a second season of this. It definitely doesn't feel like the definitive end of Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
No, absolutely not.
I definitely have a feeling we'll see him again. And like, no, I don't even think so. I still feel like he's very much going to be involved in the MCU moving forward, because now you have like Kate staying at his house.
He's basically adopting her. It looks like
they introduced the watch, so I think that's going to play a lot into Secret Invasion. I think what this series did is set up a lot to go towards Secret Invasion, as far as like maybe his wife's actually a Skrull, or who knows. But I think we'll see him again in that.
I agree with you, Matt. And for the simple fact that in this episode, they made a purposeful attempt to let you know that Clint Barton sees Kate Bishop as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
It said it a couple times. And this is not this is not how somebody speaks if they're planning on walking away from the superhero gig. Because obviously he didn't die, so he'd still be around. So if you look at a person like somebody that's going to walk away from the superhero gig is not referring to their successor as their partner repeatedly. I truly think that a future stuff is going to be the two of them with Laura Barton or Bobby Morse.
Yeah, maybe. Clint was referring to her as Hawkeye at the end. At least that's what I thought was being alluded to. She was coming up with names, and
they did tease that where she's coming up with names, and he's like, "Hey, I've got a good one," and then it pops up the title screen, and you move on. Yeah,
but they both in the comics, they both exist as Hawkeye, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like one takes the mantle and the other one goes away.
Right.
And every time I talk about Hawkeye, I can't help but think. Sorry, this is a quick anecdote, but my nephews, when they were about 3 years old, we have a video of them to where their parents are asking them to say Hawkeye, and it sounds like they keep saying hot guy over and over again. And so every time I hear the name Hawkeye, I think of that. Hot guy. So he can be hot guy and she can be Hawkeye going forward.
Go ahead.
No, I did want to point out one other thing. So they kept teasing the suits. Clint Barton didn't want a suit. They keep teasing the suits. Like every episode, it was like they were teasing the suits and his branding. I think that when he reveals that he's wearing the suit would have held a lot more water if they didn't put it in every single poster.
Yeah.
Before the episode aired. Like
I like how her suit gets debuted though, where she's fighting the elevator and Yelena takes her coat off. She's like, "Did you mean for that to happen?" And she's like, "No." That was cool. Yeah.
Yelena, stop making me like you.
Yelena, if she keeps going in this direction, is quickly going to become my most favorite character in the entire MCU. Like every time she's on screen, I just light up. Like
that was really fun.
Yeah.
Talking about them fighting.
Oh, I love her to pieces. She's the only good part of Black Widow, the movie. Like every scene that she's in it. In fact, I might watch it again just to watch her scenes because she's that good. I just love her.
Yeah, and they use the music from Black Widow, her theme and all that.
I would love to see her, because Deadpool is the other funny character I can think of that's now in the MCU. I'd love to see a conversation between those two on screen.
You just want to see a conversation between Deadpool and everybody.
Yeah.
This is a very common thing you say.
I don't
really care.
I did like when she grappling hooks to go out the window and down the side of the building, and Kate tries to follow suit and she eats it. Like she's not as graceful as
I rewound it and called my wife in to watch that scene. I said, "Look how awesome she is." And I rewound it just to show her that scene where she's screaming the whole way down. And then she does she lands with the superhero pose.
Mm-hmm.
Like perfect. Oh, I love it.
Such a poser. I saw a funny meme about Spider-Man always posing and Yelena. Oh, such a poser.
That would have been awesome if she said that when she landed.
That would have been funny.
That's a missed opportunity. All right,
we don't want to overplay the jokes, right?
I thought the fight with her and Clint was a little like, I don't know, just the dialogue and how quick it went through, and like, but I did like that he wasn't fighting back. Like, he really wasn't fighting back against her.
Yeah, it could have been longer, but like I said, this could have been. They could have added another episode.
Yeah,
and just made it so much more rich. Like, a lot of the scenes felt over too quickly. Like, so they're basically breaking into this gala, and what were they doing at the gala? They were trying to catch her mother,
party.
Right?
They were trying to catch her mom. Yeah.
So they have this. They're trying to catch the mom. They're also fighting Kingpin. They're also fighting Yelena. They're also fighting the Tracksuit Bros. And then they have to show that Jack is innocent, and then they have to, you know what I mean? There's so much going on, and I understand why the episode was long, but I felt like you could have had an episode where they catch her mom or like interrogating her, and then Kingpin comes and wants to kill her, and like they use her as bait or something, and then, you know what I mean? Like, I felt, and then Yelena,
another episode would have been good. I agree.
Yeah, so I do agree that it was over way too quickly, and it's the longest MCU episode to date.
A little over an hour
with credits.
Yeah,
with credits.
Like an hour and like 5 minutes with credits.
Yeah, so it's technically 30 minutes of episode.
Well, and 7 minutes of that is the fucking "you can do it all, I can do this all day" musical.
I showed my wife that too because I was laughing my ass off.
Oh, you liked that? I was just like, when is this going to end? When are you going to get to the part that's good? And then it ended. And I did it.
That's what Matt was saying earlier. It felt kind of like a Rickroll. Like, I thought I was going to get some sort of. I even forwarded all the way to where it was showing who the Brazilian voice dubs actors were. I was like, what the fuck? There's no more? Seriously? But when I watched on my second watch, now knowing that there was no more, I had my wife watch it because I thought she would have enjoyed it. And then I showed her in episode 1.
Ooh, Brazilian.
Where Jeremy Renner, I remember that specifically because I kept pressing 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, and then realized that I was just replaying the last 10 seconds because there was no more. Like, so it kept showing me the Brazilian. Yeah, so I showed her that part because I thought that was hilarious. Like, I don't know.
I like musicals, and that was an attack. It was an attack on my ears and my eyes.
I love the song.
Awful. It's so bad.
I love the song. I thought it was well written.
No.
I thought it was funny. It was meant to be funny, but
so bad. No,
I wouldn't be surprised if they got some big Broadway producer to write that.
They did, and they're gonna get like a Tony. They'll probably end up getting like a Tony for it or something too. But all right, so that's enough about the final episode of Hawkeye. I think it was a series that could have and should have went a few more episodes. I don't know why Marvel likes to do these only 6 episodes. Why can't you just give us a 10 episode season and let us enjoy the goodies a little bit more? But it does turn the page that we're only a week away from Book of Boba Fett. So,
which is that going to be 6 episodes? How many episodes is that?
You transition from
Probably
Marvel
8.
to Star Wars, so,
and then you got nothing till May.
Yeah. But all right, so let's change gears here because it's going a little bit longer than we wanted to. So this episode it's 2 and 2, so it's a holiday episode where we reviewed Spider-Man and the final episode of Hawkeye. But we also aren't going to be back until after the new year, so we wanted to kind of give you, on this show we talk about movies and comics and video games and much everything nerdy, and we wanted to give you our own top 5 lists for the year of 2021. So we divvied it up where Max took video games, so we're going to get Max's top 5 video games of 2021. I took comics since I'm really the only comic book reader on the show, so that's my top 5 comic books of 2021. And then, Lance being the movie guy that he is, we gave him his favorite movies of 2021. So which one of us want to go first on the list? And
I just checked, and mine, it hasn't updated with mine. So Max, you need to back this out and reload it so it puts my slides in there. But one of you guys can go first.
Yours aren't in there?
No, I just checked. Yeah, but they're definitely in the actual thing. Let's not spend too much on that, but Matt, why don't you go? So we got video games, comics, and movies.
Yeah, I was gonna let Max go first with the video games.
Yeah, and I was gonna go first, but now you're telling me that the slide presentation isn't
Amateur
up to
hour,
date.
boys. Even on pre-record, it's amateur hour over here.
Well, the amateur hour comes from the fact that Lance didn't pre-make slides.
God.
Well, because you know why. I said it before the show started.
Because he didn't read the text.
No.
All right, I re-uploaded it. Let's.
He's too busy
I hope
fiddling
yours
with
are
his
in there.
wood.
Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just do my review, my top 5. So, top 5 video games of the year 2021. I'm gonna say right off the bat, 2021, in my opinion, hasn't been the strongest year for video games. There have been some really good games, but like when you look at 2020 for me, I can think of at least 2 games that are better than any game I'm about to list. 2018, I can think of 3 or 4 games that are better than any game I'm about to list. So that's not. I don't want to discount the games like they're good, but there have been stronger years. But number 5, coming in at number 5 is Forza Horizon 5. This has been my go-to game lately because I've been wanting to read books or listen to audiobooks anyway. And so I throw it on, I race, I listen to my book. I've probably put 40 to 50 hours into this game because I'm listening to audiobooks so much. I've been playing it on PC and on Xbox, and it's a blast. It is a very well-built racer. The Forza Horizon games always are, though, so it's not a surprise. Some people put this as their game of the year. I don't understand why, but maybe it's just because I'm not really into the genre as much. I enjoy racing games. I play all the Forza games, but or at least the Forza Horizon ones. But anyway, that's my number 5. I really enjoyed it. At number 4 is going to be Kena Bridge of Spirits. This is one I hadn't even heard of until maybe a year ago. Maybe even less, but it's a brand new studio that made it, and this is their first game. And usually the studio does animation for movies, and Kena is this just delightful, basically Pixar movie that you get to play. Like the graphics seriously look like a Pixar movie, and it's just a delight. It's got a fun story, some decent combat, some fun platforming. It's just a good time. If you've got kids that enjoy watching Pixar, put this game on and play it in front of them. It's on PS5 and it's on PC. And I didn't say for Forza, that's on Xbox and PC, but I played Kena on my PC. At number 3, I'm going to put Halo Infinite. People may have thought that this would be higher on my list, but it isn't. Loved it. I did love Halo Infinite. I talked about it last week, so I'm not going to keep talking too much about it, but the gameplay loop is tight. The story was really, really enjoyable. I loved Halo Infinite, and so that's why it's at my number 3. That one is on Xbox, and PC, and I played it on both. That's been the fun part about these Game Pass games is I can play it on both systems. Sometimes I wanted to play on my couch. Sometimes I wanted to play at my desk. At number 2 is Deathloop. This was a surprise. Lance is messing with the stream.
Just give me a second. I uploaded the right one. All right, keep going.
Sounds good. I'll use yours going forward. So yeah. Deathloop is my number 2. This game was a surprise. I didn't think I was going to get it. I've been seeing the marketing since they announced it, and I'm like, yeah, it looks okay. It looks interesting, but I don't know. And then it came out, I think in was it September, August? I can't remember. I think it was September. And there just wasn't really anything else out. And so I decided, screw it. I'm going to pick this game up. I'm going to roll the dice. I want something new to play. And it was a pleasant surprise. It was so fun. The gameplay is really cool. The mechanics are really interesting. The story is it's not your typical story. There's not like cutscenes really. But as you're playing the game, it's this time loop thing, and you've got Juliana here in the picture on the left. She's constantly talking to you and taunting you and hunting you, and just a really fun time. And it presented some really cool platforming and some good challenges. And yeah, so that's going to be my number 2 game.
It kind of reminds me of the movie Looper with Bruce Willis.
I mean, I can see why you would say that, but it's really stylized compared to Looper.
Yeah, but just like the premise. So it's interesting is all I was trying to say. I mean, I liked Looper.
Then you should have just said it was interesting. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to get at there.
I was trying to give our listeners some context.
Oh man. All right. Well, at number 1 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't expect to like this game, let alone love it.
Great game.
I saw the trailer at like E3 this year and I thought that looks awful. Like legitimately, I thought it looked terrible. I thought the gameplay looked bad. I thought the graphics looked bad. I thought the voice acting looked awful. And then they started releasing previews, and some of the podcasts I listened to were saying, no, it's actually really fun. It's pretty good. But they weren't saying that it was great. They just said that it was pretty good. And I'm like, it was another one of those, you know what? It's a Marvel game and I don't have anything else I'm playing. Let's try it. And I couldn't put it down. I think I finished it in 3-4 days. I just hooked it up and played it on my PC and just had the greatest time playing
Still haven't beaten it yet.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
I haven't touched it since the last time we talked about it.
The end is so fun.
It's the best story all year that I played in video games. The gameplay was really fun. It could be better. I mean, it's not a perfect game, but I loved it. So that's my game of the year list. Guardians of the Galaxy is my top for 2021. But again, not to discount these games because they're good, but I can think of Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2. Those are 2 games from last year that to me are better than any game on this list. Or God of War from 2018, or Red Dead Redemption 2.
Miles Morales.
Dude, that's crazy that like the last 2 years with the pandemic are just a blur. Like, it feels like Ghost of Tsushima came out this year, like early this year.
Yeah, that was July. I remember because I played it right after my kid was born.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing of Miles Morales.
And the same thing with Last of Us 2. Like, it feels like it was like this year. Like, it's crazy.
But it was early 2020.
I had to look up what movies were released this year because I'm like, I know I'm going to put on one that came out last year.
I was thinking that earlier with some of the movies. I was just thinking earlier today of my personal movies of the year, and some of them I'm like, wait, did that come out in 2020? I don't remember now. Yeah, so that's my list. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Matt Boy.
All right, so I did my top 5 comics of the year. Starting at number 5, I have Venom, the Donny Cates run. This last year, Venom was one of the most hyped books. As you have the King in Black event, you have the Null stuff. Everything was hot with Venom in 2021. And now we're starting to turn that corner where it's cooling a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. But Venom was definitely one of the most talked about and sought after books in 2021. Number 4, I have the
cover.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin. Now, I know Last Ronin technically started in 2020, but a lot of the majority of the issues came out in 2021. It's still this is spanning almost 3 years now because it started in 2020, went through all of 2021, and it's going to finish at the beginning of 2022. So Last Ronin has been one of the most highly sought after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles books of the year. It brought back the original creative team of Eastman and Laird for it. It's just been one of those go-to hot series the moment it comes out, and it definitely dominated 2021.
Just
even
goes
though
to
it
show you
started in 2020.
Just goes to show you how much Eastman and Laird together it is just perfect. It's perfection.
Yes, or how much people are craving Turtles, like new Turtles content.
Good Turtles content.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, good content.
Number 3 for me was a book that took the community by storm, and that's Stray Dogs from Tony Fleece and Trish Fortner. This book has exploded. It's still one of the most sought after books. Their horror variant covers are crazy. People go crazy for these variants, upwards of, these stores put up exclusive variants. They sell out in 5 seconds, and then they go for $200, $300, $400 online. Wow. Insane book. It was an insane story. If you're interested, if you're like a horror fan, it's basically a murder mystery seen through the eyes of dogs, where this man is killing dog owners and then kidnapping them, taking their dogs, and the story plays out through the eyes of the dog, trying to figure out what happened to its owner. It was a huge hit.
Is it tied to Cowboy Bebop?
No. It was a huge hit. It It was so much so that like they had a free comic book day book as a prequel for it, and then they have a 2-issue miniseries sequel coming out at the end of the year and into next year. If you haven't read Stray Dogs yet, you can get the trades. It's a really good read. I'd highly recommend it. Number 2 for me was kind of a surprise of the year. It was Robin from Williams is writing it. It's basically if Damian Wayne entered a Mortal Kombat tournament, and that's pretty much the premise of it. It's got an amazing creating team. It surprised me. It's Damian Wayne's first solo series. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really exciting. And it's probably one of the best things to come out of DC Comics this year. Almost as good as my number 1, and that's Nightwing. The creative team in Nightwing is fantastic. The story in Nightwing has been fantastic. Nightwing is one of those characters that's always been hit or miss, but this year when they relaunched this series, it came out swinging, and it's been when I say relaunch, they changed creative teams. It's been a fantastic read. It's one of the surprising DC books. It's a DC book that I went to month after month after month this year, so I could not pass up putting Nightwing as number 1. If you're not reading the current Nightwing run, do yourself a favor, go to your local comic shop and pick it up and enjoy Tom Taylor just recreating the greatness that everyone knows from Nightwing. Those are my top 5 comic book series of the year. All can't misses. All you should be reading all of them. There's so many choices here, but when I narrowed it down, I went to books that I was shocked by, couldn't wait to read, always referring to people, and books that are just like ones that I couldn't put down. And that's kind of how I came to my top 5 list.
I was kind of surprised Dark Ages didn't make it on your list because you seem to really love that book.
It was there, but it hasn't finished yet, and it's a mini series, and I don't want to give it too much. I love it so far, but what I've learned from being a Marvel fan from all these years, especially Spider-Man, is that these event books start massive and then they fade out.
Off. Yeah.
They fade out as quickly as they started. So that's kind of why I didn't put any event books unless they had finished, like Stray Dogs has finished. I did put Last Ronin in there. It's a 6-issue book, but I mean, even at issue 5, I can't wait for issue 6, and it's doing it like it made it on there because there's 3 months in between each book because they release them quarterly, and I'm still invested. I'll wait that time to read the next one. So it's keeping my attention. It's so good. It's keeping me invested. So I felt like it belonged on the list.
So I'm going to go over my top 5 movies of the year. And there were so many movies that I could have put on this list, and it was really hard to narrow it down to 5. And my first movie is Dune. And I chose this picture because it looks like a cat's asshole, and I thought it was funny. But Dune would have been higher on my list if I didn't have to wait so long for part 2, and if there wasn't the speculation that part 2 wasn't going to get made until they finally announced it. But Timothée Chalamet was excellent in it. Kind of felt misled by the trailer because it made it seem like Zendaya was going to be a main character, and she's in it all but 5 minutes. Jason Momoa is fantastic. It's just a really great movie, and to see it in this movie, I agree with. Is it Villeneuve that directed it, Max?
Yeah.
I agree with his sentiment that this is a movie that you need to see in theaters, because I watched it at home and it does not hold the same weight as it did in the movie theater. It's visually stunning and it's just a beautiful movie. Even scenes like this where it's completely orange and brown are just visually stunning with cats' anuses. So
he's just saying that because he wants your money. He wants you to go to the theaters and he wants your $12.50. That's all.
So my next movie is No Time to Die, James Bond. And this movie would have been higher on my list if Rami Malek's villain wasn't so poorly done. But as far as James Bond is concerned and showing the humanity of James Bond and that he does care about the people that are close to him, and just being a proper ending to Daniel Craig's journey as James Bond, it's a great movie. Aside from the villain's probably the weakest part of this movie. But I would definitely recommend, and this movie and Dune could have been flip-flopped. as 4 and 5. I had a hard time picking one over the other, but it's an excellent movie. Go check it out. Number 3, A Quiet Place Part 2.
Criminally low on your list. Criminally low.
Well, wait till you see 2 and 1.
I don't care. This should be 1.
It's hard for me to pick, man. Like, no, it's not number 1. You'll see. Quiet Place Part 2 shocked me because when they announced that a second one was going to be made, so the first one is adapted from a book. John Krasinski directed it, both starred and directed in the first one. He directed this one, and it was completely original story. The sequel not being derived from any prior novelizations or anything like that. And Emily Blunt and these 2 kids that you see on screen are just fantastic. It's heartwarming. It's scary. I would almost say that it tops the first one, and the first one to me is just phenomenal. But I remember walking out of the movie theater. This was the first movie I went back to see post-pandemic, and I couldn't have been happier as far as my first reintroduction into the movie theaters, and it was just great. And I assume by the popularity of this one that they will probably make a third one, and I can't wait. If they figure out a way to make a rich story again, I will definitely be the first in line. Number 2, and this might be some bias here, Ghostbusters Afterlife. I fucking love this movie. And this one and my top one could have been flip-flopped as well. But I'm a huge Ghostbusters geek. I love everything about Ghostbusters. I collect the toys. I've watched Ghostbusters 1 and 2 more than 100 times each. Paul Rudd is phenomenal. McKenna Grace as Phoebe is just fantastic. Matt got his nickname from podcast here. The only downside to this movie is Finn Wolfhard just seems not needed, really.
I mean, in this picture, it looks like he kind of smelled a bad fart just then.
He looks very oddly photoshopped in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, but
it looks like someone was like, "Hey, let's get one of those Stranger Kid things in here to sell this movie."
They already know he looked good in the suit because he wore it in Stranger Things. I really hope they continue this story. Originally when it was pitched to the studios, this was going to be, the close out the trilogy, but they struck gold with McKenna Grace and podcast, and Paul Rudd for that matter. It just seems like a natural fit into these movies, and I really hope it continues. And the best part about this movie is the Egon ghost at the end of the movie, and it just felt like a really good homage to him and the legacy that he had on Ghostbusters. I thought it was very tasteful, and I just love everything about it. My first movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. Now do you see why Quiet Place Part 3 isn't number 1?
Yeah, I still don't agree with you. But also, based on your review earlier this evening, how do you even like this movie? Everyone except for me had nothing but bad to say about it.
I love this movie. I love it. There is just and it's strictly I love it because of the fan service.
If you're listening, by the way, it's Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if we said that out loud.
I did say that.
Okay, sorry.
But you're just so into your Quiet Place Part 3 or Part 2 thing that you weren't listening.
He's so geeked about it. He's already got a Part 3 up here.
Yes, this movie has its faults, and no, do I think it's the best MCU movie ever made? No, that belongs to Endgame. Do I think it's the best Spider-Man movie ever made? No, that belongs to Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is just fantastic. Do I think that this movie took an incredible amount of fan service and made it and put it into a movie that could have crashed and burned, much like Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2 did, with too many villains, too many plot lines, too many things going on, and could have crashed and burned? Yes, this movie had the potential to do that. Do I think it did that? No. Tom Holland is the prototypical Peter Parker. I think he's the best Spider-Man we've ever had. I love Andrew Garfield and I love Tobey Maguire, but as far as Peter Parker and Spider-Man goes, and the duality between those two characters, because they are two separate characters, Tom Holland does it beautifully. Zendaya's fantastic in this. All of our villains, Alfred Molina, Willem Dafoe. I kind of strike Jamie Foxx from that because I didn't really like him as much. But Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina are fantastic. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, they're fantastic. But I do have issues with this movie. It's just the case of what movie got me the most excited when I was sitting in that chair, and what movie have I not been able to stop talking about since I've watched it, and it's this one. But that's my list. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Max? What would your number one been? Quiet Place
Part 2. Yeah. And it's interesting because I haven't rewatched A Quiet Place Part 2. But that's also because to me it's not that it's not rewatchable, because it is. But it's not a movie I want to rewatch because it gave me anxiety because it's so well done.
Yeah.
Like it's when we were at Couch Crunchers, we were rating movies, out of 5. It's the only movie I can think of this year that I gave a 5 out of 5 to. And so by default, that has to be my number one. Like it was so freaking good. But I like a lot of these on your list. Spider-Man No Way Home probably would have made my list. No Time to Die probably would have made my list. Dune would have made my list. I don't know if Ghostbusters was. I wasn't as jazzed about it as you. But it might have. I don't know. I didn't put a list together. But a lot of this stuff would have been on my list too.
Yeah, when you go and look at the movies that were released this year, you realize there was really slim pickings. And of course, I haven't watched The Matrix or The King's Man, which The King's Man I hear is actually pretty dang good, which I'm kind of excited to see.
Really interesting. I heard it was really bad.
Really? I heard
that's
it's
just
a lot
what
of
I
fun.
saw on Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes had it at like a 44%.
Oh yeah, I don't trust Rotten Tomatoes.
That's
Rotten
fair.
Tomatoes right now would put this as a Best Picture in the Oscars, and I don't think it deserves that either.
Yeah.
If this gets nominated for Best Picture and Winter Soldier did not, that makes no sense to me because Winter Soldier is a better movie than
this won't get nominated for Best Picture.
Well, Black Panther shocked me and it got nominated, but I mean,
Yeah,
I love Black Panther, but not as a Best Picture. Yeah, if you haven't watched any of these movies, go check them out. They're fantastic. I love them all. But like I said, that they could all be number ones in my book. Like it's really hard to pick.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think there was a lot of great movies that came out this year. A lot of good entertainment.
You guys got anything else you want to touch on before we end it?
Did you guys read just real quick? Because I noticed we didn't go over any like geek news, but did you guys see there's a bit of a uproar about them changing the Punisher's logo?
No,
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
I did see that. They did it because they're tired of organizations or groups or the police or parading around, using the Punisher's logo to fit their agenda and trying to make that logo fit an agenda. So they went ahead and repurposed it and trademarked it. So now they're going to just sue the shit out of anybody that tries to use the new logo going forward and trademarked it and all that. So yeah, it looks stupid because it's not the prototypical Punisher skull, but in like 4 or 5 years, who's going to care, if that long?
Well, I just have to say this about the new logo. It looks like a vagina.
Is it the one with like devil horns coming out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Flip it upside down. Flip it upside down, and it's a vagina.
If you want to see vaginas, just watch Zack Snyder's Justice League when Clark is in his alien spaceship duties. Literally, that's all there is behind him is vaginas.
Anyways,
enough vagina talk. I just looked it up, and the first thing is Marvel changes Punisher into a vagina. That's the first article.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
I just think that's an iconic logo, and
it is.
I could understand if like terrorist groups and things like that are using it, but I think they could have changed it without the walrus fangs and the devil horns, and it could have made it different enough to where it would be different enough to where they could still trademark it. But
listen, I understand that you're upset because your QAnon group can't use that logo as a symbol anymore. All right, but seriously, yeah, that's why they did it, because
the old skull was so freaking cool looking though. So I think it's
just being used, and these groups are trying to get it to fit their agenda and what they stand for versus what the symbol was originally meant to.
Which is funny that they would ever want to use that logo, because Punisher is a pretty ruthless character. And I don't know if I was a police officer, if I would want to be associated with the kind of character the Punisher is.
No, the Punisher is like completely outside the law. He
was
a murderer.
Frank Castle was a police officer though, so like he ended up taking the law in his own hands when his family gets killed. But
yeah, which is exactly what the cops don't want people to do, is take the law into their own hands.
Yeah.
You know, like it just doesn't. It's kind of, in my mind, it's a little hypocritical when they use that logo.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't know. I don't see the point in changing it, really, especially something that's not nearly as good. You know,
what
but
they changed it to looks like crap. Oh well. But I don't have anything else. It's been a great year. It's been fun podcasting with you guys. I'm looking forward to 2021.
Merry Christmas.
You're looking forward to 2021 again?
2022. I'm
really not looking forward to 2021. I want this year to be over.
I'm looking forward to 2022. Lots of good movies coming out. Great video games coming out. John Wick not, though. That was delayed to 2023.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, they announced that like 20 minutes before we got to record. Yeah.
And I bring up the Punisher logo, and you don't bring up that?
Well, it's because I'm trying not to keep us going. This was supposed to be like a 45-minute episode.
Five minutes to add that John Wick has been pushed a whole nother year is enough. Did we have that when we did our top list? Did we have that and most likely to be pushed?
We thought it was. No. I think we put it in the B tier.
Yeah, so it just goes to show how good we are at our jobs.
Well, on that note,
everything.
Guys, I want to thank everyone who listens to this podcast or watches this on YouTube for their support this past year. I understand it was a rocky one with me leaving, all of us leaving and going to Flipside, and then me coming back and graciously getting Max and Lance the opportunity to work with you guys and have you join the show. Has been great.
I loved every second of it. I love being here.
We're still just finding our footing together and kind of finding and reshaping the identity of what this show is going to be and what this podcast is moving forward. And all I could say is it's only the beginning. I can't wait to see what 2022 brings, what great stuff we roll into 2022, and just kind of see where this podcast is at now and where it can go. So can't wait to see what guests we get, what content, what memories we make. And I can't wait to visit it next year at this time when we have a full year of doing the show together and content and just having a great time. So I just want to say thank you to you two for coming on board and helping me put this thing back together and kind of taking it over and making it your own as well. And I can't wait to see what greatness we produce together.
I'm excited
moving forward. So.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I wanted to say I wish you all a happy holiday. If you're in the States and you celebrate Christmas, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. I hope it's safe, fun, and I hope 2022 is the turning point for all of us where we can get back out there and get to cons and be face to face and hanging out and having a good time and just be. Man, if you're not now and you want to be creative, make 2022 your creative year. Do something creative. Get in a hobby that's creative, whether it's art, reading comics, reading books, video games, going to reviewing movies, doing podcasts, whatever it is. Just fit a little bit more creativity in your life, and I think it'll be it'll bring some joy back into the world. So.
And show it to us. Maybe we'll talk about it.
There you go. So we got all amazing shirts coming out. We got so much. Lance has been hard at work stocking all kinds of Absolute Geek gear down.
I'm running out of ideas, man. I need you guys to float me some ideas because I think what I've got is those shirts are pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, there's been some stuff. So look at that. You can check out our shop if you want to get some of our gear. But I think that's where I'm going to stop rambling and just say I appreciate everyone who listens to the show and what you guys offer us and allowing us to entertain you for a few hours every week has been a great pleasure of ours. So for the final episode and the special holiday episode but for the final episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast for 2021. I am Matt.
I'm Lance.
I'm Max.
And saying we will see you guys next year.
All you freaks and geeks.
Come all you freaks and geeks. Let's listen to Absolute Geek.
Absolute Geek.
We'll go ahead and spread our cheeks.
Spread the cheeks.
And drink
And
some
over for
Cosby wine.
We'll
Come
drink
on,
some
Absolute
Cosby
Geek.
wine. It makes me feel real fine. See you next time on the Absolute Geek